you got to finish Deathloop.
Yeah, so this is what happens. We can either spend a little bit of time across all the games we get, or we can put all our time into a game. And
one game, yeah.
This week, all I played was Deathloop. Like,
one might say you were stuck in a loop.
I was stuck in a loop. No, but it just worked out because, like, I decided to stream it just to like really sink some extra time into it. And then coincidentally, Lenska was doing a lot of like heritage work on the side, so she was working late into the evenings. Like, well, guess I'll just
heritage isn't for Heritage Day or
no, just like the heritage of our suburb. Not necessarily. Well, what she was doing was for Heritage Day, but she does do
finding out
work.
what the parents of your house were.
She's busy looking at me. I'm like, oh my god, am I saying something out of turn?
She's actually looking at you, asking if you want a coffee.
With the toothbrush in her mouth. Yes, please. No, so the point of the story is that I played a lot of Deathloop and ended up rolling credits last night, much to my surprise, because when I always like to gauge how long a game will take, because I feel better knowing, this game's going to expect X amount of time from me. I can realistically commit that over a week or 2 or 3, however long it is. And when I looked up articles on Deathloop, a lot of them said like, yeah, depending on how long you take to play the game, it'll probably take you like 25 to 35 hours. I was like, damn, that's actually quite long. But like, I'm enjoying the game, cool. But I rolled credits yesterday after like just over 20 hours. And I was telling you before we started recording, it wasn't a thing of like, I didn't mainline at all. I really did poke around, take my time. I spent some time invading other players as Julian.
Yeah, I saw you were having a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting because last week we spoke about it. I had not touched the game. I did not have code. And now the student has become the master. I have rolled the credits and you have not.
I'm still, it was funny because I watched your stream on Tuesday and I was like, oh, you kind of like just a bit behind me. There's still some things you have to uncover. And then by Wednesday already, you're like, oh, I've done this. And I was like, what?
How did that happen? So
I was just like, Jesus, you've like quantum leaped me. What the hell?
I've looped past you. So I suppose it's worth just recapping quickly for those of you who missed our your early impressions last week, review in progress.
Let's see you explain this now.
So Deathloop is a new game from Arkane. Is it Leon? Which one is it?
Leon. Leon. That's correct.
Best known for other games like Dishonored.
I think Leon specifically did Prey, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, is it? Is it not the same? Why
so Arkane Austin does Dishonored.
I thought it was that studio because there's a very sidebar, very signature teleport move in Deathloop, which feels a lot like it's out of Dishonored.
Yeah, I think they share stuff, but I think what's it? Oh God, I'm blanking on the name, but the main like creative director at Arkane Austin, who created Dishonored, they working on something else.
Okay.
So yeah. But I think Leon did Prey. I might be wrong, but anyway.
Let's just put a sweeping blanket statement in that it's the studios who've worked on the likes of Dishonored and Prey and those kinds of games. But this is an interesting case because Deathloop is made by a Xbox-owned studio now. Because obviously Arkane falls under Bethesda, owned by Xbox. But before that deal happened, it was pegged as a PS5 exclusive. And it is, but it's a timed exclusive. So if you're an Xbox console owner, you can expect to play this next year at least. It's just a year exclusivity.
Yeah, I think it's exactly a year.
Yeah. But you've got a really fantastic game to look forward to because having rolled credits on Deathloop, I can say that I really, really enjoyed it. So just for context, you play as a character called Cole. You literally wake up on an island. Colt, sorry. No, is it Colt or Cole?
Colt.
Okay, I'm going to have to wait for some subtitles to prove. You wake up on an island and you quickly figure out that you are just stuck in a time loop. This island has 8 visionaries who've obviously played a part in creating this loop, but you want out. You you're tired of living the same day over. You don't like it. And you go, shit, I want out of here. And the only way to break the loop is to kill all 8 visionaries on the same day. So this game's interesting in that it really, to me, like there's a lot of game examples that come to mind of things I could compare it to. Like the time loop stuff itself, easy comparison is Outer Wilds, where your player retains knowledge and so do you, obviously. So if you figure out how to do something on one day, you'll know, you'll have that knowledge to use elsewhere maybe the next day. So I suppose a good example is, I need to get a code into this place here, or this place only opens in the afternoon, so you use that knowledge to your advantage in future runs, whatever. But yeah, the whole premise is you just trying to piece together how to kill these 8 visionaries. And it's not so simple because the game's broken up into 4 districts and there's 4 different times of the day. So you get, morning, noon, afternoon, evening, and the visionaries aren't at the same place at the same time. It's not like they get together in a room, go, oh, hey, here's 8 of us, and you go, hey, I'm going to kill all of you at the same time.
They quite specifically don't do that.
They don't do that,
There's like an in-game protocol where they are advised never to be in the same place at the same time for the specific reason.
Yeah, because they know if they all die, the loop will break. And this island that we live on is marketed as a paradise. You get to live a day without consequence, go to bed, wake up, you get to do it all over again without any previous memory. So they want to keep this loop intact.
And they're kind of all assholes. They just kind of want to do it. Some are doing it because they want to research things for forever. Some just want to party every single fucking day. So yeah. So they're real varied and fun characters, I find.
They're very interesting. So the loop of the game comes in the form of, well, I need to, either figure out how to get these people. So like I said, 4 times of the day, 8 visionaries. You have to obviously try to figure out how to overlap, get them to maybe meet up with another one or be at the same place at the same time. And that's all you spend the whole game doing, is being given like breadcrumbs or, these dangling threads, and you go, oh, okay, I need to follow that lead. Oh, it's given me this piece of information. Now I need to go to this district to get this other piece of information. And it's not necessarily a single breadcrumb. You're often given multiple ones that you're trying to figure out at the same time. And in on that front, it's like I had a great time trying to piece together how do you get these 8 visionaries in one day. And it's done like cleverly. So I suppose like an example is, that this person's like one of the visionaries is throwing a party in the evening, and this person wants everyone to attend, but a lot of people turn down his invites. But you can still get some visionaries there if you do certain things or you meet certain conditions, whatever. So the easy example is there's a scientist called Igor, who he basically, you figure out he doesn't go to the party because he gets results from one of his experiments, and he spends the evening analyzing or reviewing them. You go, well, that's not cool. This dude should go to the party. So what I'll do to get him to the party is earlier in the day, I'll go to where he conducts experiments and I will destroy the equipment. Therefore, he doesn't get the result he wants. Therefore, he's got nothing better to do. Therefore, he goes to the party. Like, that's an example of how you piece together how to get somebody to a place you want them to get to. But this is all, framed around very, very open, versatile gameplay.
Sorry, I'm just watching the gameplay and I love that you just threw the battery at the socket expecting it to go in.
So visual listeners or watchers, I'm sorry, this is like my opening hours. I'm still figuring out what the hell this game is.
Oh god, that was a real funny thing. It's like, slot battery in, man. He's like, fuck that, I'm gonna throw it.
And if you throw some batteries incorrectly, they'll explode. So I'm lucky
if
that
they charge, they're like a grenade. Yeah,
I'm lucky. So this whole loop of figuring out how to kill these visionaries is built around, if you've played a Dishonored, it's built around that kind of gameplay where you have abilities and different weapons, and you can either, I suppose Deathloop is really good at giving you the choice. You can be very sneaky if you choose to be, or you can go in guns blazing. And I think you've said to me several times like you really like Dishonored, but you feel that it unfairly punishes you if you aren't stealthy. And you're like, but you've given me the tools to not be stealthy. Why are you punishing me with like a bad ending for killing people? Whereas Deathloop, there's no repercussions. You can really, bar a handful of instances where you have to be stealthy, you can really, really be as chaotic as you want to be.
I mean, it kind of encourages that because you're living in an endless loop. Like there's no consequence to you killing people. The loop just resets and those people are back. So the game like pretty explicitly tells you to kill everyone. I mean, the throughout the game you get this like text that is projected onto the world around you, which is I mean, you probably know more about it now, but in my understanding, it's like Colt's thoughts or previous thoughts from previous loops, which are giving him guidance. And there are literally moments where that text is just like, kill everyone. Like, it does not care.
Yeah.
So in Dishonored, I like Dishonored a lot. I just think that game, even though it gives you all these tools to do really cool things, like you get so many more powers in Dishonored compared to Deathloop. And you get a bunch of weapons in Dishonored too. But I don't know if it's, this might come down to like almost like gamer guilt. Like you feel you have to play the game according to its rules. I feel like Dishonored really pushes you towards being stealthy and non-lethal. Because if you don't, then it's like, okay, well, you're going to get the bad ending. And that in context of its story, it makes sense. But it also feels very limiting. Like I'm not playing Dishonored multiple times. If you're just playing it once, it can feel a bit unsatisfying to be like, damn, I had all these things and I hardly used them because I was just slinking around all the time. And then on top of it, the game, like every immersive sim, suffers from like save scumming. Like if I get detected, I just go, cool, I'm reloading. And Deathloop doesn't have that. Deathloop quite literally turns save scumming into its mechanic where you cannot save while in a district. So if you fuck up, like you just kind of have to go with the flow.
It,
and like if you screwed up, then oh well, you've got another, you can come back the next day at that time and just try it again. So I think with that sort of format, it's really fun because you are exploring the same 4 districts, which they change according to the time of day. So it's not just like 4 of the same place, but you are going to them multiple times. And, unlike something like Dishonored where you go to a level, you play it once and then you're out. This one, because you keep going back to them, I feel like you're learning the layouts of the levels constantly. And, even me, I was playing the party that you mentioned just now, getting into the party. And I found like, I think it was only my second time attempting it. And I found so many different other avenues to get in and out of that place. And I'm pretty sure there's more that I haven't figured out. So I love that.
Yeah, that's part of the satisfaction as well. I mean, so you for example will get to a visionary who's hiding in their base or in their mansion or whatever, and you'll kill them. You go, okay, cool, like I know where they are, I know how to do it. Oh, look at this vent here, whatever. Or oh, there's this door that's on a balcony. Oh, like I don't even have to make my way through this building. I can just make my way around and get you immediately. Which is interesting. I was telling you before I finish the game, so we will talk about invasions and that shortly. I got invaded on my last run and I got murdered in the evening right at the end. I was like, oh, like I was so close. But then reenacting that, getting to that same point, like I did it within 15 minutes, if that, because I knew like then it became a thing of like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to do this again. And I just like ran past enemies, I teleported, I used shortcuts, and it was very quick. But obviously figuring that stuff out takes time, right? Like there's a reason it took me 20 hours, and for all intents and purposes from what I've read, people take longer because this game, it does let you experiment and do whatever the hell you want. So we haven't even touched on us, like the weapons. Let's just say that the weapons are more or less what you'd expect. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but you get pistols, SMGs, rifles, and some of them have variations. But where the creativity really comes in is in these things called slabs, which is what gives you're right. The character is Colt. I don't know why I thought it was Cole. It's what gives Colt his abilities. So I mentioned Dishonored has that teleport, and if you're watching the footage, you've probably seen me use it a few times. That is an example of a slab you can use, but there are others. You get one that makes you invisible. You get one that basically, it's called Havoc, which just makes you a killing machine. And
coincidentally, it's like my least used one, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, look, in you can only equip 2 of them at a time. And my staples were the teleport and the invisibility, because I felt those just worked best for what I was trying to do. But like, having rolled credits, I've looked at the trophy list. It doesn't seem too difficult at platinum to get. There's one or two I'm like, I need to figure that out. But yeah, I'm gonna definitely spend some time going back to experiment with other slabs now, because like, I've done what I needed to do. Now I can really just poke around and do whatever the hell I want.
I think what's neat about the slabs as well is that, like you said, they're equipable items. So unlike a Dishonored, you don't have every single one available to you at any given time. You can only take 2 into a district at a time. And they're like a weapon. So slabs you pick up off visionaries when you kill them, or Juliana. And if you pick up a new slab, you have to drop one in its place, obviously. And your method of keeping weapons and slabs in between runs is called infusing. So you use a currency called residuum to infuse items, and that gives you the item at the beginning of the loop. And something that it took like 1 or 2 loops to kind of figure out was like, if I drop a weapon in the middle of a loop, when I get to my safe house at the end of that time of day, the item's not there.
It's not.
It only gets given to you in the morning. So if you drop it during that loop, it's gone. And that's really screwed me sometimes with slabs. I'm like, oh shit, I need the slab, so I want to pick it up and take it back and infuse it. But that means I have to give up like teleportation or invisibility for that run. So I like that dynamic. It forces you into these scenarios where you have to change up what you're doing.
But I mean, even just you touching on that, so like, I've given the Outer Wilds comparison. This game is also very much roguelite in that sense, where you start off with nothing, but as the more you play the game, you get resources that let you infuse items that make you stronger at the start of your next run or whatever. But it's not in the traditional sense where it's like, oh, I need to increase my health pool or my power slot, whatever. It's literally it's just your loadouts that you can customize at the start of each run.
And I feel like, I mean, there's aspects of this game that I feel like they didn't really need to be there. Like at the beginning of the game, you're told your guns can jam, but I found like I was getting such good guns really early in the game that never ever happened to me.
It never made a difference. Well, it happened to me like a few times, but it was like,
it was like once or twice at the beginning, and then once you've infused one purple weapon, because they graded by rarity, based on colors, like your common gaming colors.
Of course,
and it just kind of never happened. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but it is. I think the barrier to entry that some roguelites have is like, man, you got to really grind it out the first few hours before you start feeling like you're building up an arsenal of weapons. And Deathloop is super not like that. Like within like 2-3 hours, you've got a very good staple of guns and powers that you can start doing some really ridiculous shit with. So in that sense, it definitely feels tuned to, it wants you to feel powerful, but at the same time, if you overextend, you die pretty quickly. Yeah, I found like you can take down groups of enemies, but they will equally kill you quite quickly. Yeah. And then you've only got like 2 respawns per district. So
yeah. So this is actually your footage now. Before you laugh at me, go, ha, you fell off that roof.
I know. I remember doing this. This was, I think, like the first or second time in this district. And I was like, I think I just got shift. So I was just running around and like teleporting everywhere and having a great time.
It's amazing. But just on that, I think I definitely want to touch on invasions, because that's such an integral part of the game. But before we get to that, my biggest criticism of the game, which you have a point, but the AI isn't great. But it's interesting because I found that is when you're playing a stealth game, it's kind of difficult to get that right. So I don't know, like, am I being too harsh, or is it just genuinely not great?
I get the criticism. You're also not the first person I've heard say this. So it's made me think about it a bit, because at the start I didn't really think about that. It felt like pretty typical stealth AI where they kind of are very they have very bad short-term memory. And I felt definitely if I compared it to Dishonored, the enemies feel far less alert. Dishonored, they will see you firstly from further away and hear you from further away. I feel like Deathloop is very forgiving, especially in terms of sound. Like you can really do stuff really close to these guys. And like I've thrown bottles because they say, oh, you can pick up a bottle and throw it to distract someone. Like I've thrown them so close and they've just like not reacted. Like, what the fuck? Like I don't get it. But then like through that, I've just realized like the game kind of doesn't want me to do that. It kind of just wants me to play fast and loose. And the AI to me feels tuned to make that to make you feel like you can do that.
Yeah. So I hadn't really considered that until you mentioned that. Like, it might be done intentionally. Like I completely hear you. If it isn't, it would be wiser then to be like, yes, it's intentional. Because if it isn't,
yeah, but like it feels a bit bad if it's like unintentional. Yeah.
But like to your point, the AI feels bad, but I have to say that like it's a pretty shit feeling dying at the end of the day. And maybe they found in playtesting, if the AI is too good, it just makes the game too hard, and that'll piss off some people, or it won't piss off some people. And I think it's probably better to go, you want to maybe cater to the widest audience possible. This isn't a Dark Souls. It's not intended to be something where you go, oh God, like I need to really like push myself and challenge myself. It's meant to be this fun, open playground that lets you experiment. So like I completely acknowledge, maybe to your point, it's intentional. Like they made it a little bit easier for that reason.
I really think it's a purposeful design choice because again, they removed saving entirely. So like in Dishonored, like enemies were very perceptive. Even on lower difficulties, they would like often found like ridiculously good at spotting you. And that just meant that I had to like go around very slowly, and if I was caught, I just, reload. Yeah. Here, because you don't have that, I definitely think like you're on the money that they just had to look at what was the best balance of making you feel like you are powerful and have some agency, and also, obviously providing a challenge, but also not ensuring that you die consistently in the morning and the afternoon.
Exactly,
because that would to me, that would infuriate me. And I think it would infuriate a lot of people. So I think they've struck a good balance. Like, again, you see, so there, if you're watching the footage, I killed someone and he was very clearly being observed by other people. So they all got alerted.
Like, oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. So now they know I'm
to jump through that window.
Yeah, no, it didn't work out. And now that this is an area packed with enemies, like, I'm pretty sure I died twice here. Like they are pretty deadly. So because they are bad at being aware of you, when they are aware of you, they will kill you quite quickly.
Yeah, the trade-off is your health pool is very teeny tiny, and if you caught in the open, like you're dead.
Yeah, you're screwed.
You really will be dead. So yeah, but I suppose that lends itself to one of the coolest features of the game, I think, which is invasion. So one of the visionaries and somebody who Colt talks to throughout the game is, I'm sure we mentioned earlier, is Juliana, who she is on the opposite end of the spectrum. Colt is trying to break the loop. She is trying to protect it to the best of her ability. So she will hunt you down, obviously, to prevent you from, fucking up this paradise that they've built. And what's interesting about that is that the game has an invasion system very, very identical to, a Dark Souls or a Bloodborne or a From game, where you can, if you want to, you can play in single player mode. That's cool. You'll get invaded by an AI Juliana. If you open up to, the online realm, you can be invaded by actual players. And it just adds this different dynamic to the game where, look, the AI Juliana is also like very straightforward to kill. I find she usually just charges at you and that's that 9 out of 10 times. But I've had
the AI Juliana is not really a challenge.
Once I was caught off where she was posing as, so her abilities, she can take the appearance of any of the other AI, the what are they called? I've gone blank now.
Masquerade.
Yeah, Masquerade. I'm talking about.
You're talking about the other enemies, the Eternalists. Yeah.
So she can take the appearance, and once she did kill me, where I ran into a room, I was like, "Oh, it's an Eternalist," and it was her. I was like, "Oh my god!"
It's very. It reminds me a lot of the Assassin's Creed multiplayer in that respect. Where you would like hide in plain sight, sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, you can have actual players invade you, and you yourself can spend time. There's like a whole separate option in the main menu where you can invade other players' games, and there's a whole progression system and point system and everything. But having played most of the game, obviously as Colt, and being invaded by other players, it just adds this different dynamic to the game where you need to suddenly think like, oh God, I'm not against an AI, I'm against a human. Like, how am I going to deal with this? So, you'd think, oh, well, you could just leave the map or whatever, you keep your gear. But what the game does to balance is that Juliana basically locks off your escape route to the tunnels, and if you want to open the doors to them, you have to hack a satellite. So it creates this dynamic of like, well, it forces the cult basically to go to an area of the map to try obviously hack the satellite so they can leave the level, and Juliana is obviously going to be there either masquerading as somebody else or setting up a defense or just hunting you down. But yeah, I've had some really, really fun encounters where you have to think different. It's a human person. And you suddenly either, playing very, very carefully because, shit, I don't want to die, or you're going guns blazing. Like maybe you do have a build where you use that slab we mentioned earlier, Havoc, where you built for all-out offense, which most of the Julianas are. I've seen that slab run so many times. It just makes the game feel like, I don't know. The only way I can explain it is that it adds a different dynamic to the game. It makes it feel more, I don't know, like it raises the stakes immediately. If you
because that Juliana can end your loop right there and then, because either you kill her or you have to hack that satellite without her seeing, and then you still have to escape. I think the trade-off there is that Juliana only has 1 life, and you as Colt have 3 essentially. Well, if you have 3 if you haven't died elsewhere. But yeah, I think it's the AI Juliana, like, you can change it to single player, and I get it. Some people are like, especially now as people get better and better at the game, they're like, I do not want to open myself up to like really fucking crazy good Julianas and have my loop killed. But at the same time, the AI Juliana doesn't really represent a challenge, and I think you owe it to yourself to at least give it a go with online a little bit, because the tension is really good. It's very high, and it's fun. Like, you will be told when Juliana has invaded your game, and sometimes you'll see the other player just do like dumb shit, like run right in front of you, not really notice you. My favorite one was an enemy Juliana invaded, and I ran into her at a really bad spot. I was like fighting other NPCs. So I ran away and I jumped off a building and didn't realize I was so low in health. So I died when I landed because you take full damage. And whoever was playing Juliana just followed me. So they jumped, they landed, and they died. So I went back to my body and there was a dead Juliana there. And I was like, well, that works. I mean, I guess that and there's a lot of rewards associated with killing her. Like she drops really good trinkets, which are like your weapon and character upgrades. She drops a random slab as well. So you could get a power or an upgrade to a power without having to
actually kill that visionary. Yeah.
So I mean, you are incentivized to actually hunt her down. Whenever someone invades my game, I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm going for her, because there's a really good reward associated with that risk. Yeah. So yeah, I love that mechanic. I think it's brilliant. Yeah. And giving players the chance to control her is really good.
Yeah, it's really cool how it just was built into the narrative like that. Like it is obviously, I have to believe that is an early decision of like, hey, here's like the basic premise of the game. How cool would it be if we built it that a player plays as Colt, playing through the narrative, but we give other players the option to play this other character who he's interacting with all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just such a it seems like such a simple thing, but I can't stress enough like how it really changes the dynamic of the game, and sometimes for the worse. But I mean, I was telling, I don't know if I said this while recording or before recording, but on my last loop last night, I made it to evening and I got invaded by a Juliana who like destroyed me, like absolutely destroyed me. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to start this loop again. But to the game's credits, knowing exactly where to go, I made that progress back within 10-15 minutes. And it was one of those things of like, oh, like I'm so disappointed. But there was such a rush of like, damn, that was some really good fun regardless. Ain't nothing like it feels the closest feeling I can compare it to is like, if you've ever played a battle royale and you're like the last person or one of the last teams, whatever, and you're just so close to winning. And if you win, you get that like huge release of like, like I did it. Or like, damn it, like I was so close. Like it reminds me of that so much.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. I think, I definitely agree with that. It feels good again because you're playing against another player. So I also think that the sort of like banter between Colt and Juliana is fantastic. They are the two central characters in this game, and the game keeps alluding to a sort of friendship or relationship that they had. Because obviously Colt doesn't remember a lot about the loop, but he was definitely involved at one point in the loop. And Juliana's just like, she's kind of over having to continually kill you to protect the loop. She's almost like bored with the whole routine. But she flips between like being really playful and flippant to like really aggressive and angry. And I think the voice acting for both Colt and Juliana are just like so strong. I never tire of hearing them talking.
Yeah, they've got a great dynamic. The banter between them's like top notch. The
really
writers had a lot of fun with that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and like there's a lot of writing between
jabs
them.
at each other.
Yeah,
it's just so good.
It's very witty and funny sometimes, but it cuts deep sometimes. It's very good. I like it a lot.
It's called. I'm like, that's so personal.
But I actually love the opening 2 hours with the tutorial can feel a bit slow, but what I love about it is that Colt is as confused about the entire structure as you are as the player. So whenever he's vocalizing questions, it's questions that you as the player have as well. And I think it's smartly done.
It's funny because it's a thing of like you kind of figure out, I need to do this thing. And he says it because you yourself like, I think I need to do this. And he says like, I suppose if I have to do this, like, I get you, man. I gotta get it either.
Yeah, exactly. It's very fun. Yeah.
But I suppose just my last thoughts on Deathloop, it is a really, really good game. It's kind of difficult. Like, I don't know. There are some people that come to mind. I'm like, I don't know if you'd enjoy it. Like, I know some of my colleagues, I'm like, yes, no, would you enjoy it? It's not a traditional shooter. Like, it's different in that regard. But it is an excellent game. Like, I really enjoyed it. And yeah,
I do think it's, a lot of people have been turned on by the idea of Arkane's like games visually and stylistically. Like, I know a lot of people that love Dishonored's look and setting, but cannot vibe with its gameplay. And the same with Prey. So I think if you're one of those people, I think you still have to give Deathloop a shot. Like, if you feel burned, you're like, damn, I bought Dishonored 1 and 2 and Prey and I didn't like either of them. Now this will be the same. I suspect it won't. I think this game is a direct... it's a response to people who have found issues with past Arkane immersive sims, and I definitely think it is more enjoyable to a wider audience. I know I've enjoyed this a lot more than their previous games. So I think give it a chance, even if you felt at any point like Dishonored feels restrictive, this is the game for you. It is them going, cool, we made a game for you. Yeah. So that's great.
Yeah,
good.
Deathloop.
Good.
If you're on Xbox.
I really like it. It's a fucking great advert for Arkane on Xbox. I'll give you that much.
In a year, you're probably gonna just pick it up on Game Pass on day one.
I'm real curious to see what Arkane Austin is working on. Given the lessons that they've learned from this as well. I assume it's going to be a new IP. I don't think it's going to be a Dishonored 3.
Yeah.
And that excites me a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, Deathloop, good time.